Hello, good afternoon to all of you. Today we're going to have a short discussion, a short seminar on qualitative data analysis in the context of health professions education and an introduction to the in vivo and ATLAS.ti. But for this recorded video, I will only be using the ATLAS.ti so that we can keep up with our time. This special seminar has been prepared by yours truly, Dr. Michael C., and Claire Pastor, a university researcher at the UPNDT-CHP. One of the reminders that we are giving out our students to maximize our learning, we would like to encourage you to download a free version of the ATLAS.ti 8 or the NVivo version, which can be downloaded in these websites. The seminar aims are as follows. First is to define what is a qualitative research design and its purpose. The second aim is to differentiate the different types of qualitative research. The third one is to describe the scope and characteristics of qualitative datasets. The fourth one is to discuss how qualitative data is collected and analyzed. And lastly, I'm going to show you how to use analytical software such as ATLAS.ti for qualitative data analysis. So what is the purpose of qualitative research design? First, qualitative research explores social processes and human experiences. It asks about what, why, and how. It also seeks to explore and explain. Explain probably a phenomenon in medical education, and explain how students are coping with a new curriculum. Good qualitative research produces descriptions, theories, or conceptual understanding that may be useful transferred to other contexts. So, what are the purpose of qualitative research? The aim is really not to generalize, but to understand the influence of context, culture, and perspective to inform the world. Sample qualitative research questions are as follows. How do graduating doctors make choices about their practice location? Another example is, how do medical students make choices about using online learning resources? What is your research question? At this point, you cannot have a small group discussion, but based on what you're doing now with your HP 300, you can try to jot down what your research question is, especially if you are already doing your research, and try to determine if they are qualitative or quantitative, or are they mixed, meaning it's a mixed method research question. There are different types of qualitative research. The main ones are as follows, according to Cristancho et al. In 2018. The first one is grounded theory, phenomenology. The third is ethnography. The fourth is case study. A fifth one will be discussed later, and it's a design called narrative research design. Grounded theory explores social processes to produce explanatory theory. It uses an iterative process, systematic treatment of data through coding, constant comparison, and theoretical sampling. So, in grounded theory, it is important to note that they constantly compare the data from one group to another, and they do it in a very rigorous way. So, so that they can develop a certain theory on a certain experience, on a certain phenomenon, and in what you're studying. The second type is called phenomenology. Phenomenological research deeply probes individual experiences of selected phenomenon. So the key term here is really understanding lived experiences. It involves largely inductive analysis and a particular attention to reflexivity. So in phenomenology, there is always a use of interpretations of the researcher and interpretation based on the statements given by the respondents. The third type is called ethnography. Ethnographical studies studies culture to describe the nature and meanings of routines and rituals. It has a reliance on direct observation and uses sustained immersive engagement to understand social dynamics from within. So this is uh, a qualitative research design where the researcher is engaged with the research respondents, and they are actually immersed into the research context. No? They use a lot of observations, they use a lot of diary notes or field notes as they call it. The fourth type is called case study. It, it is a type of research design where analysis of one or more instances of a problem is done. The goal is really to inform understanding of either individual or a series of cases that is illustrative of a problem of interest. So case studies are usually provides an understanding or a narrative of a particular unique case or situation in the area of study. In our case, medical education or health professions education. So this is a sample grounded theory study entitled Judging Residents' Performance, a qualitative study using grounded theory. You can read through all these abstract, but in the conclusion of this study, it just says that residents think that feedback in the assessment tools is the most important proof to demonstrate their performance, whereas program directors scarcely use this feedback to form a judgment about residents' performance. It just in this study, there's a lot of constant comparison regarding how residents or medical residents are being judged when it comes to their clinical performance. In Tagalog, in other words, sinasabi nila dito that um, they found out based on their constant comparisons that uh, the director's feedback has a heavier weight in comparison to feedback coming from objective assessment tools. So mas nagkakaroon ng bigat yung judgment ng mga consultants or ng mga teachers, mga directors na nag-o-observe dun sa mga residente in comparison to their OSCE or to their objective assessments. So with constant comparisons, they were able to form a theory that when it comes to judging residents' performance. To know more about grounded theory, you can download this study from the AMEE Guide number 70 from the medical teacher. Yeah, in that document, there are a lot of information and a lot of examples when it comes to grounded theory should you be using that in your MHPed thesis. A sample ethnographic study is entitled Focus Ethnography as an Approach in Medical Education Research. As you can see here, the method that they use is ano bang ginamit nilang method dito? Oh, yun. They use direct observation to gain new insights and nuanced understanding of distinct phenomena, themes, and interactions in specific settings in medical education, such as the learning potential of ward rounds or how hierarchical positions affect learning situations. So their method in this research is really for them to immerse themselves into the learning experience, such as probably the researchers are immersed into the ward rounds, into the classroom, so that they can observe the object of study. They also use direct observation, and possibly they're also using field notes so that they can gather more data, and as they are uh, able to keenly observe not only their experiences but really the physical and the social environments in the study setting. So, yan yung isang example ng ethnography study. You can download this study in the DOI as seen in the screen, so you can have an access to this paper. An example of a phenomenological study is a study that I did with several colleagues, and it's on uncovering the lived experiences of Filipino drug recoveries toward occupational participation in justice through an interpretative phenomenological analysis. So again, uh, a key factor in doing a phenomenological study is really looking into the lived experiences of the study object. So in this study, I use a particular phenomenological approach called the IPA or the IPA, Interpretative Phenomenological Analysis. So what I did here is I was able to interview 24 participants and they are recovering from substance use disorder from DOH rehabilitation centers. And I was able to do an in-depth interview. So in order for you to get data on the experiences of people, an in-depth interview is very much uh, applicable for your method. And once I gathered all this interview, I was able to transcribe them and code them so that I can come up with themes. And as you can see, I was able to come up with 4 emerging themes. Okay? And then yung mga themes na yan describes their experiences. So imagine 24 participants with a lot of qualitative data based on the interviews, and then I was able to use an inductive approach and open coding so that I can create themes that will describe their lived experiences based on a certain framework that I used, and may apat akong na-discover. Okay. When it comes to the types of phenomenology, marami kasing mga types yan. So there are 2 major types. The first one is descriptive type, okay, transcendental phenomenology, and yung pangalawa is called interpretative type or hermeneutic phenomenology. Basically, the difference between the two is sa descriptive type, interpretations from the researcher is not allowed. So you just do your coding and your categorizing, clustering based on the descriptors in the qualitative data without the bias of the researcher's interpretation. On the other hand, on the interpretative type, dito inaalaw yung interpretation from the researcher. Therefore, yung IPA or yung interpretative phenomenological analysis na approach by Flowers and Smith, I think by Flowers and Larkin, sila yung gumawa ng IPA. Mas gumamit ako ng interpretative kasi I used my own interpretation as a researcher in coming up with my themes and in doing my analysis. Yeah. So this is another example which you can view later on. The title is How Phenomenology Can Help Us Learn from Experiences of Others. So this is a very good paper that will explain more about the use of this type of qualitative research. The fourth type is called case study, and I'm giving you an example. The case study that I'm showing you right now is entitled "Utilizing the Occupational Justice Health Questionnaire with a Filipino Drug Surrendery in Occupational Therapy Practice." So this is an example of a single case study because I was only able to interview one person using a questionnaire that I am developing along with my colleagues, and because it's a pilot, it's a piloting of a certain questionnaire. It's very new. Um, no one has done it before, so I decided to use it just to see how it goes and how it will impact practice or the profession. So I did a sample case study of one recovering person uh, recovering from substance use disorder because that's the area of study that I'm focusing on. Okay. However, you can also use more than one person study, or you can also try to study a cross-sectional cohort or a group of people, just to make sure that yung case study na gagawin mo is something that hasn't been done, or this is something interesting like an intervention, an assessment that you'd like to introduce. I think a case study is a suitable type of qualitative research design, no, for your thesis. But I think a case study will not be will not suffice as an MH-PED thesis, no. Hindi yan yata yung ine-expect from a master's level. But a case study can be done by clinicians, um, or if you're still doing your coursework and you want to make your own independent project, you can do that. You can do that as well. So most of your clinicians, so you can try to incorporate research into your clinical practice by using case studies so that you can have evidence on what you and your colleagues are doing. Okay. So again, I mentioned kanina that I will be discussing a fifth type of research design in qualitative approach. Then it's called a narrative research design. Okay, this is a study from a colleague of mine, and the title of the study is, as you can see, intra and interpersonal agency. Resuming occupational participation among persons with spinal cord injury after discharge from inpatient rehabilitation. Um, kung makikita nyo dito, the method is basically ethnography. Pero, the way that he analyzed his data is using thematic narrative and narrative slopes analysis. So as you can see, on an advanced level of qualitative research, you can put together two different designs, and I think that's okay. So, ang point ko lang dito kaya ko siya binigyan ng example is to tell you more about narrative design. So, ang purpose niya is to explore in depth one or more individuals' longitudinal experiences. In this study, he was able to uh, go through the lives of spinal cord injury um, patients who were already discharged, and he followed the lives of these people parang for several months, I think siguro 8 months to 1 year. Finollow niya yon, tinignan niya yung kwento ng buhay ng mga um, SCI clients na to. And their approach to analysis is really to analyze stories for key elements, develop themes with an emphasis on sequence, turning point, and context. So, if you read this paper, I think I have a copy of this. You will be able to download this later on. Meron siyang tinatawag na narrative slopes wherein you can see that the trajectories, or should I say the storyline of one client or of one patient. Makikita mo if this patient is experiencing positive stories and negative stories. So pag positive, tumataas yung parang line, and then pagka nagiging negative story, for example, naubusan sila ng pera, or na yung may story doon na namatayan ng asawa, bumababa yun. So nagkakaroon ng negative narratives, tumataas, bumababa. And then the researcher will be able to identify the story or the longitudinal experience ng isang individual across time. So, ganun yung parang narrative, example of a narrative study. But at least yung example na binigay ko is based on the study of Alve et al. So, yun. That's something that you can also look at when you're doing your research. So, when you collect of qualitative data, you 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 have to make sure that you know what you are collecting, okay, such as transcriptions from interviews. Make sure that you are ready with your audio recording devices, your video recording devices, as you are allowed. You are also you should be aware also if you're using ethnography. You need to prepare your diaries, your field notes, your notebooks from direct observations, your camera for photos, and so that you can also look into to visuals, no? To collect data. Another would be examining artifacts, letters, relics, historical accounts, photos, and secondary data. You can use all these. So at the beginning pa lang, when you're conceptualizing your study, you have to make sure that you know what methods yung gagamitin mo when you collect your data. Are you going to combine these kinds of methods, or are you going to just use interviews? No? Sinasabi nila that a good quality research uses different kinds of methods when they're collecting data, para hindi lang iisa yung source ng data mo. So ano ba yung characteristics of qualitative data? Of course, in comparison to quantitative data, it can be overwhelming because you're going to get a lot of them and it can really be difficult to organize at the very beginning. Another thing about qualitative data is they are susceptible to bias during interpretation. So you need to be more aware of that, and you need to be aware on how you will mitigate the biases that can come along during your analysis. However, qualitative data is mainly used to enrich quantitative data, and also qualitative data is really used to dig deeper into what is really happening, or what what is really the factors, or what is really the root causes of why these phenomenon are happening, no? So in comparison to numbers, mas iba din talaga yung nai-yield na interpretation ng mga qualitative data. Of course, in comparison to statistics, qualitative data require iterative process of analysis, rigor, and trustworthiness measures as well. So if in quantitative data you do psychometric properties to make sure that your data has reliability and validity, dito naman sa qualitative data, you need to consider rigor and trustworthiness. So another reminder for all of you, so before you choose a methodology as a researcher, you must first know what philosophy, ontology, and epistemology underpins your research. So you have to make sure that you know your philosophy, what set of beliefs, ideals, and theories do you have, or do you want to use to guide your research and to move forward with your research. You also need to be aware of your ontology, meaning ano yung nag-e-exist, what is the reality where you're going to underpin your research. Okay. And another thing which is very important is the epistemology of your research. You need to know what we can know and how we can know it. This is uh, a research compass where you will know the scope of knowledge that you are in. or that you would like to know, yung scope that you would like to know. And it also asks you if you're using a positivistic epistemology or an interpretivistic epistemology. So, if positivism means more on quantitative data, interpretivism means that you're leaning towards qualitative data. So, you need to know these differences, yung philosophy, ontology, and epistemology when you are conceptualizing your qualitative research design. Okay? Approaches to analysis, of course, you need to be cognizant of these approaches. First is yung deductive or inductive approach. As you know, when you use open coding, it's very inductive because it moves from the specific to the general so that particular instances are observed and then combined into a larger whole or general statement or themes. Yung deductive naman is meron ka ng earlier theory or model in mind and therefore it moves from general to specific. So when you use deductive, meron ka ng theory in mind, meron ka ng themes in mind, and then you just put your data as you see fit into the themes that are already available. Okay? But then again, you have to be reminded but that if you want to create an original knowledge that will contribute to the profession or discipline, mas ginagamit talaga ang inductive way in terms of analysis. The second one is iterative process of analysis. Ito lang ang sinasabi lang dito is that there has to be a constant comparison of your analysis, meaning there are, aside from paulit-ulit mo siyang babasahin at i-analyze or i-revise yung mga themes mo, there is also a need to have other people look at your analytical process so that you know that it's not just you who interpreted it, you also have other people to balance your interpretations. So yun yung iterative process. Rigor and trustworthiness, as you can see, there are different components under rigor, like reflexivity, adequacy, authenticity, trustworthiness, and resonance. For trustworthiness naman, you have your credibility, dependability, conformability, transferability, and authenticity. Okay, these components just make sure that when you're doing your qualitative research, na-achieve mo tong mga components na to. Now, you're not just doing it based on your own personal interpretation or your personal opinion. There is also a systematic way of doing your interpretation, and you have to look into these different components to ensure that your research has rigor and trustworthiness. So now let us move on to the ATLAS software so that we can start knowing about yung ating tawag dito, yung ating paggamit ng software. But before I go there, I'd like to walk you through the different steps in qualitative data analyses. Okay? The first one is collecting data. Okay? Okay, under that is having your in-depth interview, record and transcribe data, member checking, transfer data collected to an Excel or document file. So you have to make sure that you're doing these procedures under collecting data. For coding data, of course, the basics are to read and reread your transcripts, code based on content and form, okay, clustering your codes, and then creating your emergent themes. Tapos you also need to know about the saturation. If paulit-ulit na lang ba yung lumalabas na data, wala ka na bang nakikreate na bagong themes, yan yung ibig sabihin ng saturation. Again, on the third part is iteration. So when you repeat steps 5 to 9 under coding data, yun yung tinatawag na iteration. Then, step 11 is look for themes in relation to meanings of experiences. So it depends on the method that you're using. Okay, tingnan mo yung mga meanings, tingnan mo yung interpretations. Of course, when you do your interpretation, you have to always go back to your research objective. Ano ba yung objective ko? Ano ba yung gusto kong malaman? Lived experiences ba? Processes ba? Turning points ba within a story of an individual or a group of people? Or is it a cultural portrait na gusto kong makita? So you need to be aware of these small but rigorous steps in analyzing your qualitative data. Ayan, nabanggit ko na yung mga yan kanina. Things to consider lang when you're analyzing. First is yung data saturation. Member checking is really when you do your interviews or when you get qualitative data from a person, you need to try asking them again or doing a second set of interview or sometimes even a third set of interview just to make sure that the data that you're getting is consistent and authentic. So that's one. And you need to also be aware of social desirability bias, wherein, especially kapag in a vulnerable population, nag-i-interview ka doon, tapos they see you as a person of authority or a person who is different from them, there is this tendency of respondents saying what you want to hear. No, hindi nila talaga sasabihin kung ano talaga yung honest opinion nila or experiences because probably nahihiya sila or they feel in danger, they don't feel safe sharing that. So, kailangan maging aware ka doon and you just have to create mechanisms to make sure that the honesty of these people and that and that you are trying to reduce talaga the bias as much as you can. Okay? Another is subjectivity is seen not as a bias but an enriching factor in treating data. So this is a very interpretivist, uh, an interpretivist way of looking at it. Subjectivity. It is sinasabi nila na ang qualitative research may bias na talaga yan. Yes, it is true na may bias na talaga, but if you're using an interpretivist epistemology, okay, ang nakikita mo yung qualitative research as an enriching factor in terms of the knowledge where you want to contribute. So, yun lang yung mga kailangan nyo i-consider. Okay, skip lang natin si Claire kasi wala tayong in vivo ngayon. But, gagamit tayo ng ATLAS.ti. So, papunta na ako dun sa ating ATLAS.ti. Okay, can you, yeah, I'm sure you can see this in this recorded video. So, unang-unang gagawin mo, okay, the first step as is really to import the document that you want to analyze. So, unang-una, syempre meron kang meron kang data sets na nilagay mo na sa Excel or sa Word document. In our case, sa Word document ko siya nilagay. So, the first thing that you need to do is to import. No? So, you click document and then you import document. So, whatever it is, it can be a text, it can be an image, it can be a PowerPoint, PDF, audio, video. So, you can just click which one. And then, pag na-click mo yan, lalabas itong Word file. So, in my case, I click the Word file and I click a PDF. So, meron akong in-import din na PDF na may mga picture-picture. Yan. Okay. For example. That's just an example. The second step is for us to create code. So, tuturuan ko kayo kung paano mag-create ng code. If you feel like hindi ito enough, there are videos online created by the Atlas company. So that you can have a more in-depth experience and exercises. So, if you want to code, so ito yung aking FGD study. Okay, so ito yung saan ko kinolect, where data was collected. Ito yung questions na tinanong namin during the FGD and ito yung mga data na nag-gather namin. So, it's just a small FGD and sinelect lang namin ano yung mga data na gusto naming i-analyze. So, you just have to highlight the statement. So, when you read Okay, again, di ba, dapat i-reread mo. You reread and reread and you try to come up with a code per statement or per phrase as you wish. So, for example, eto, give roles to the citizens. Okay? So, pwede mo yang i-double click or i-right click and then add coding. So, when you add code, yan, pwede mong i-type. Ako, naiisip ko, citizenship. Yan. You can type another code if you wish, kung meron ka pang ibang naiisip. You can type more than one word. Ayan. And then add. So, dahil may na-add ka na, lalabas na ngayon yung code mo na bago dito sa list of codes. So, as you can see here, meron kang iba't ibang mga codes. At yung citizenship, eto na siya. Kasama na siya dun sa group of codes mo. Okay? So, another would be, ito, try naman natin dito sa baba. For example, ito. The tool that I use contextualizes things. Okay? So, for example, pag nag-a-analyze, kung sino man yung nag-a-analyze, dapat naging part siya talaga nung collection, aware siya sa buong study, kasi mahirap yung ipapa-analyze mo siya sa ibang tao in comparison to quantitative research wherein you can just get a statistician to give you the numbers. Dito sa qualitative research, important na yung nag-a-analyze mismo know what's happening and the context behind kasi nga may kailangan kang i-interpret. So, for example, the tool contextualizes things. Okay? So, magko-code na naman tayo. Okay. Again, when you can choose between create quotations, okay, pwede kang gumawa na, pwede kang mag-add ng code, like yung ginawa natin kanina. Add last use code. So, kapag ka pinindot mo to, magiging under siya ng citizenship kasi yun yung last na kinode natin. Okay? Pag code in vivo naman, sige, i-code in vivo natin to. Ang lalabas dyan would be yung mismong hinighlight mo. So, ayan. Code in vivo. Ayan, lumabas siya dito. As you can see, the tool contextualizes things. So, ganun yung code in vivo na option. Okay? Yan. So, when we go naman to images, so for example, may ipapakita kong image, kunyari, meron nag-strike na image sa'yo, eto, ayan, eto, kunyari. Oops, meron na pala tayong mga example dyan. So, you can just click on the image and you can highlight the image as you wish. Or siguro yung buong, yan. And then you can add code and so as you add, ito yung mga code na kinreate namin previously. So, addict, drug user, relapse, smoking. So, you just need to interpret or ano ba yung nako-code mo dito sa picture na to. So, ito yung apat na lumabas sa kanila. So, if you have another set of pictures and then nakakita ka ulit ng code that can be named drug user, relapse, then dadami yung mga dadami yung load nung code na yon. So, dadami siya. So, ibig sabihin, yung buong document mo or yung mga pictures na meron ka, it encapsulates yung drug user, yung addict, ganun. Okay? So, yun yung purpose niya. Okay? Wait lang ha. Ayan. Sige. Ano ba yung next natin? Sandali ah. The next is, okay. So, you just need to make sure that when you have your codes like this, for example, inclusivity, ayan, pag kinlik mo yan, yung inclusivity, lalabas lahat ng mga statements where you have coded inclusivity. Okay? Tapos, you have to make sure that you define each code. Okay? mahalaga na dinedefine natin ang ating mga codes. Okay? Okay, sandali. Edit comment. Ayan. Ayan. So, you have to edit. So, each code na yan, kapag kunyari nakakamap ka na, so may 17 codes na tayo so far, you have to make sure na yung mga code ninyo may definition siya based on the statements. So, babalik ka pa rin dun sa statements na meron ka. Okay? Para alam mo na itong code na to, hindi lang siya inclusivity. Yung inclusivity na yan is endemic dun sa study mo. Is unique to your study. So, sabi dito, definition of inclusivity based on the quotations where you have gotten these codes. Important yun na process. So, yun lang yung medyo um, rigorous or madugo when it comes to qualitative research. Okay? So, i-review mo na yung list mo. So, as you do your, of course, lahat yung ng mga statements, dadaanan mo. Lahat ng files na meron ka, datasets, dadaanan mo. And then, kapag ka, again, wala ka ng bagong code na nakikreate or sa tingin mo na paulit-ulit na lang yung lumalabas, it means nagsasaturate ka na ng data. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo na kailangan mag-collect ng more data or hindi mo na rin kailangan pang pwede mong tignan pa rin the whole data pero hindi mo na bubusisiin kasi nga paulit-ulit na lang yung lumalabas. Okay? Then after you've done your analysis or your coding, okay, you can start categorizing them. No? So, in this case, pwede mo na silang yan. Pwede mo na silang kulayan, okay? Pwede mong ito siya. Code tree, ayan. Pwede mo silang bigyan ng color like purple, ayan. Pwede mo silang especially if sa tingin mo gusto mong itong mga purple magkakamag-anak. So you can put colors to them, pink, you can put yellow, okay, sa model barangay, okay. So para lang magkaroon ka na ng initial categorization. And you can put them again also, you can put them in groups already. So for example, itong drug user, meron siyang isa siyang group na category, isa na siyang category, and then under drug user may addict, relapse, smoking, surrenderies. Yan, makikita mo dyan. So you can already group them. So now we go to the semantic linkages, yung networks natin. Okay, punta tayo dun sa network. Okay. So, when you network, you just need to put, for example, lahat ng pink mo, okay, gusto mo silang hanapan ng meaning. Okay, ayan. Surrenderies. Kanina yung addict, pink din eh. Sige, lagay natin tong pink. Ayan. Okay. Ayan. Or sige, mag-try naman tayo ng iba nung wala pang color. Sige, ito debriefing para meron tayong bagong example. Destigmatization, sorry. You can just drag them, all of them. Anxiety, citizenship, and social transformation. So, ito na yung mga codes. For example, sabihin na natin magkakapareha sila ng color, okay, or magkakasama sila. And gusto mo siyang gawan ng parang theme. So, you just have to so, ito na yung network mo. So, ang gagawin mo dyan is, ano ba yung mga ano ba yung under each or ano ba yung mas general, ano ba yung mas specific. Okay? Pwedeng okay. And to do that, you have to look at this circle where you can drag an arrow towards another concept. So, dito mo pipiliin if you're gonna merge these two together, or ano ba yung link ng code na yan from another to another code. So, does it contradict? Yan. Is it associated with? Is it a cause of? A part of? A property of? Yan. So, for example, a property of. Yan. So, you can drag again. Okay. Pwedeng contradicts. Okay. Ito naman is A. And pwede mong i-connect doon. Yan. So, dito magkakaroon ka ng idea on how these 5 codes are connected. So, you can rename, you can group them, okay? Tapos, pwede ka rin for example, sa social, wag na. Dito sa social transformation, you can add neighbors, okay, all common. So you can see lahat ng common neighbors ng social transformation. So, ito, ibig sabihin, itong debriefing tsaka social transformation has one quotation in common. So, makikita mo. But you really don't have to show itong neighbors nila just to check, no? Pero if you really want to create a semantics of networks of the codes that you have to help you do your analysis, it's okay to have no neighbors kahit hindi mo muna sila ipakita. You can remove. Yan. So that's the purpose of having your displaying your semantic linkages. Okay? Okay, so na-open na natin, nakapag-create na tayo ng network. We have inserted code elements, arranged codes visually, so you can arrange it as you like, and determine the relationships. Okay? So, ikaw nang bahala ngayon as a researcher kung paano mo siya i-interpret, no? Kung sa anong theory ba yung mag-help sa'yo in terms of your interpretation, go back to your research objective, ano ba yung gusto mo, and then tsaka ka makakapag-create ng themes. Okay? So, I left you, if you have more questions about how to use this, we can do that in NTTC. And of course, you can watch a lot of videos on ATLAS.ti para mas matulungan kayo on how to have an in-depth exercise in using this. But then again, we have an asynchronous handout for you, tas may exercises akong pinrepare doon to assess lang if you can do your own qualitative data analysis. Pero exercises lang naman yon. So, I hope you can work on that as well. I'll just show you yung yan. Ito yung binigay naming Google Doc ni Claire. And andyan lahat ng ating diniscuss today. So this is just an assessment of learning. So from here on, you can try to answer some of the questions that we have given you para lang makita natin if na kaya nyong i-apply yung mga tinuro namin sa inyo today. And then if you have your outputs, you can just screen cap that and then put it here so that we can see if you're able to also do that in your atlas. So if you want to screen cap, so you just screen cap your work, and yan, pwede nyo ganyan, and then you can just put it in this file. Ayan. Para lang alam natin that you've done something similar to what we have for you. So again, these are our references. I can share with you the link of this Canva so that you can review them. And for now, if you have any questions, please drop your comments below because this will be this is uploaded here on YouTube. So all this information naman can be taken from that YouTube link. So lahat ng mga pinakita ko na information will be accessible to all of you. So maraming salamat for dropping by and for listening to this kind of long video. But I appreciate your time. Maraming salamat and see you very soon. Stay safe, stay healthy. Goodbye.